This week on the Gadget Show Web TV, Dionne's hooking up all her gadgets to one universal remote.
And John's got a first look at the LG Renoir.
Plus the latest in gadget tech news. Welcome to the Gadget Show Web TV. I'm John Bentley.
And I'm Dionne South. And later I'll be showing you how to combine all of those remote controls that are currently cluttering up your living room into one universal remote.
But first, I've been trying out a new 8-megapixel camera phone from LG, the Renoir. I'm in South Korea to try out some of LG's latest phones. And this one's their new Renoir, or KC910. It's intended as a replacement for the Beauty, and it's LG's latest entry into the 8-megapixel camera phone market. Now, one of the distinguishing features of the Beauty was its touchscreen. And it's this touchscreen that distinguishes the Renoir from other 8-megapixel camera phone offerings from the likes of Sony and Samsung. Touchscreen's actually been somewhat improved over the Beauty. I found the experience rather better. It's more responsive, and there's a handy button at the bottom which allows you to switch by touch between open applications. There's GPS, Wi-Fi, and lots of multimedia features. I like the way it supports DivX for movies. It's got a good radio, good music player, although disappointingly, no 3.5mm headphone socket. You actually have to plug in the separate adapter. But it's the camera features that I think are the most interesting. There are fun things like a beauty mode for removing minor imperfections in your subject automatically. There's blink detection. You can focus on different parts of the image simply by touching the screen, and there's an ISO 1600 setting for when you're shooting in dim conditions. Understandably, that's a bit noisy, but it could be useful. You can use that built-in GPS to geotag your pictures, and it's easy to find your way around the camera using the touchscreen. But I do have issues with some aspects of the camera. In particular, the viewfinder is widescreen, but the actual pictures you're taking are 4:3, so you actually don't see bars at the top and the bottom, which makes it more or less impossible to frame your pictures accurately. Also, the flash is a bit of a disappointment. It's xenon, so it should be brighter than an LED, but I find it very dim compared to the one on my Nokia N82. It's really too weedy. I've also got some issues with the video camera. It has that nice 120 frames per second slow motion mode, which is good. But on some of the video settings, I found audio and pictures didn't sync properly.
And now I'm going to try the sound. What's the sound like? Will I be able to hear myself out of this? Let's try it.
Say if somebody's speaking, all your lips move wrong. So that was a major disappointment. So overall, the Renoir is a very promising 8-megapixel camera phone with a few issues that still need to be sorted out.
So not a bad handset then. They need to sort out those video issues, and it's a pity they've not got a better flash.
True, but overall it's a pretty good phone. Now, time for the news. First up, Nintendo have just launched a cartridge that turns their DS into a sort of e-book reader. It's called the Classic Book Collection, and it contains, not surprisingly, 100 classic books.
Yes, the titles include Treasure Island, A Tale of Two Cities and Pride and Prejudice, with many more titles offered as downloads. And you can turn the pages using your finger or stylus on the touch screen.
I mean, it sounds great fun, but I can't see it necessarily being a serious rival to the Sony Reader and the Amazon Kindle for any number of reasons. I mean, there's the resolution of the screen, the fact it's got a backlight makes it quite tiring to read. There's also the battery life. Still though, if you've got a DS, it's a great additional fun way of using it.
Japan has become the first country in the world to allow movie addicts to download high-definition movies and burn them directly to their own Blu-ray discs. This new service comes from video rental company Tsutaya and will offer just over 400 film titles to start off with, but no doubt more titles are soon to follow.
Though I think the price will have to come down before it takes off, because it's 27 quid per film to download. Then you've got to buy your discs, and Blu-ray discs are very expensive. You're only allowed to make 2 copies per download, and you've got to value all the time it takes to do all this.
It'd be cheaper just to buy the movie.
And finally, rumour has it that at CES next year, Sony will launch a rival to the iPod Touch. A very handsome device. It's got 3-inch OLED touchscreen. It comes in 16 and 32 gigabyte capacities and includes Wi-Fi and should provide excellent video playback.
New online features include web browsing, music searching and downloading podcasts.
And crucially, Sony seems to have finally got its act together in terms of content. It's done a deal with Amazon to provide music sales directly to the device.
No news yet on pricing or a release date, but we're hoping to see this in spring 2009.
Time now for one of Dionne's how-tos, her easy-to-follow guides that help you get the most from your tech.
Yes, and this week it's all about combining the remotes from your gadgets into one universal remote control. If you're like me, then you will love to get the latest gadgets for your television, from your Sky HD boxes, your media center PCs, DVD players, video players and game consoles. All great bits of kit. Problem is, they all come with one of these, a remote control. And let's face it, the more you have, the more space they take up. For me, they're all lined up on the arm of my sofa. And it can be confusing when it comes to do a simple task like changing the channel, especially when you pick up the wrong one. Now, the best way to overcome this is to get one of these, a universal remote control. So here's the Gadget Show's guide to programming a universal remote control. There are loads of universal remote controls on the market that can be programmed to operate various brands of one or more types of tech. You've got the low-end universal remote controls like this one that can only operate a set number of devices determined by their manufacturers, and it can be really frustrating if your devices aren't compatible. For example, my LTEX amplifier and all of my games consoles won't work with this controller. So I'd highly recommend going for a mid to high-end universal remote control, as they are compatible with hundreds of thousands more devices, and more often than not come with their own software for easier programming. So this is why I've decided to go for the Logitech's Harmony 550. Not only does it boast compatibility with more than 100,000 devices, it comes with a web-based software which makes it really simple to get all the commands from your remotes into one device. It also has the added bonus that it's both Mac and Windows compatible. So now I have my universal remote, all I need to do is install the software and program all of my devices onto it. You just need to boot up the software and scroll through the company list to select your devices. The range can be a bit daunting for beginners since there are a few dozen component types listed, such as TV, AV receiver and DVD player, and then hundreds of manufacturers within each one of these categories. Thankfully, the software is pretty forgiving, and as long as you note down the company name and model number, it should pull up all the commands for your product. But if you do have a complicated setup, you might need to spend a bit more time programming your devices individually. Once you have all of your devices programmed in, you can select how you want to use them using an activity. Once you've finished programming all of your devices into the software, you need to connect your remote control to your computer using the USB cable it came with. And then you just need to click the Update Remote button to transfer all your details across. Now, depending on the activity you've created, your remote will control a number of your gadgets at the same time. For example, I've created a Watch DVD activity, which will turn on my television, DVD player, speaker system and AV receiver all at the same time, set them to the correct channels and inputs, and even start the DVD. Now, while the movie's playing, the controls that I've designated will punch through to the appropriate device. So my play and fast forward buttons control the DVD player, my volume buttons will control the speaker system, and the power button will turn everything off at exactly the same time. So when I want to go to bed, I don't have to turn everything off individually. So now that all of my devices are cleverly contained in my universal remote, I can put the old remotes away, sit back and watch TV with ease.
That's great. I find those Logitech Harmony remote controls really do work, providing you invest all the time in them. And if you do, you can actually control everything.
Yeah, it's a great way of getting rid of the excess remote controls, and you don't have to worry about picking up the wrong one if you need to change the channel.
Right, that's all we've got time for this week. The next week I'm looking at mobile TV.
And I'll be showing you how to upgrade the graphics card in your computer.